Hi, welcome to the flipped instructional session for Math 08B for 508, use cube roots to solve equations. Today our objectives are to represent an equation in the form x cubed equals p, where p is a positive rational number using a cube root symbol, and we're going to solve an equation in the form x cubed equals p, where p is a positive rational number. So a cube root is a factor of a number that when multiplied by itself 3 times results in the number. So for example, the cube root of 8 is 2 because 2 times 2, oops, here's cube root. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. The cube root of 64 is 4 because 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So this is similar to square roots. Remember, a square root just looks like this. This is an understood 2 out here. We don't write this. We just write it like this. The square root of 9 is 3 because 3 times 3 is 9. So a cube root is the same, except we just need 3 of the same number. Three cubed is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. So 3 is the cube root of 27. Negative 3 cubed, negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 is actually negative 27. So we can do cube roots of negative numbers. So negative 3 is the cube root of negative 27. So we're going to need to keep those negatives in mind. So m cubed is 125. So to undo something cubed, we take the cubed root. So the best way to write this in algebra, we're going to take the cube root of both sides. So the cubed root cancels out the cube. So we get m equals the cube root of 125. So we're looking for a number times itself 3 times to be 125, which is 5. Because 5 times 5 is 25. Times 5 is 125. So m is 5. So that's the notation we're looking at. So let's take a look at this. Z cubed equals negative 1. So to undo cubing, we take the cube root, and it's important to put the little 3 out there. It's not correct. Cube root cancels out a cube. So Z equals the cube root of negative 1. So what times what times what gives me negative 1? Well, this one's kind of weird because it's 1, but negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is indeed negative 1. So this part is just kind of showing you how that negative works. So let's solve this. 6x cubed equals 48. We don't want to take the cube root right now because we still have this coefficient out here. We want to get this cube by itself before we undo it. So the first thing we're going to do is divide both sides by 6. So x cubed equals 8. Now that we have that cube by itself, we can take the cube root of both sides. So the cube root cancels out the cube. So we get x equals the cube root of 8. So we're looking for a number times itself 3 times to give us 8. And that's 2. And our check is 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. So x equals 2. So we wanted to isolate that cube, isolate that x, because that 6 times x cubed, that cubed only goes with that x. So just like before, we want to get everything away from that x before we start messing with it. So that's why we divided both sides by 6 first. So let's take a look at this one. There's quite a few things. And this one is actually telling us that we can round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So let's talk about how we can use that with the calculator. So just like before, we need to isolate this cube. The first thing we need to do Subtract 9 from both sides. So negative 105 minus 9. Remember, this is change. So we would get negative 114. We still need to get rid of that 2, so divide both sides by 2. It's hard to switch to cubes after you've been doing squares forever. So divide both sides by 2, we get negative 57. So now we take the cube root of both sides. Those cancel. So we get C equals the cube root of negative 57. So we're going to do a number times itself 3 times to get us negative 57. So let's check it. Negative 1.8. So 1.8 times negative 1.8 times negative 1.8 is 5.8. So that's not right. We know that positive 2.6 can't be right because positive times positive times positive is not going to be negative. So we need to check, make sure that's right. So 3.8 times 3.8 times 3.8, all negative, is negative 54.8, which is close to this 57. So of these, this one is the closest. So that's how you do a multiple choice. Another way that you can try to do it, if they don't give you, there should be a cube root function on the calculator in the quiz. So you just have to make sure that you find this button, because remember, this means square root. Eventually, we'll see things like fourth root and fifth root, but right now we're talking about cube root, so you want to find that on the calculator. So of the multiple choice ones, this one was closest. I still think they probably could have gotten us a little bit closer, but that's what they gave us. If you have an iPhone, on the calculator, there is a cube root button if you turn your phone sideways, and it's kind of right in the middle actually, and it just looks like this. And if you put in the number, so for this one you would put in negative 57, so make sure you use that minus 57, and then do that cube root button, and it would give you negative 3.84, 85, and it keeps going. So rounded, negative 3.8 is correct. So if you're using your iPhone and you use that calculator function and turn it sideways, there is this cube root button. So that can also help you. And right next to it is the square root button, just so you can see it. For more practice, check out one of the live sessions, a flip follow-up, or a help lab. You'll see those on your Class Connect schedule. Thanks.